are products that, the cells that customers need to do their research. This is both primary cells, like whole blood or purified cells from blood, as well as, some cell lines. We have a lot of products to do the cell purification. So once you have the cell source that you want to start with, we have a lot of tools to isolate specific cell types from that source. Once you have isolated that cell type, we have products to do the cell culture. So you can take the cells and you can culture them. And then once you culture the cells, usually there's some sort of downstream assay or analysis, which you do. And so we also have products for that downstream assay or analysis. And if you look at our three biggest areas, the three biggest areas that we have are primary cells, which is the cell sourcing, the cell separation reagents, and the cell culture media. But we offer a lot, a much wider range of products than just those three. And the reason we offer those other products is if you look at the type of research that our customers are doing, there's a lot of biological variability in those products. And so, compatibility between the cytokines that people are using and the cell culture media is actually really quite important. And you can't just look at the specifications for a cytokine and then, purchase one from any supplier because of just the inherent biological variability that the specifications don't catch. And so we spend a lot of time integrating our products together so that they, we can be 100% confident that they're going to work together. I think this is, a real key differentiator for stem cell. And, I think it's that this focus on the science we talked about originally, as well as this integration and focus on the workflows, that really has made stem cell as successful as it is. So just a high level overview of stem cell. We're a privately held company, so we don't have any outside investors. There's about 1,500 employees right now, and we typically grow at about 20% per year. We've grown at about 20% per year for the last 25 years, and we expect that to continue for the foreseeable future. We're profitable. We're a profitable company. We have a steady revenue stream, and our head office is located in Vancouver, British Columbia. So these are just some of the buildings if you're interested in them. This is a building that's very close to Science World downtown. It's 100% research and development now. So this is where all our research is done. This is a building by the BC Cancer Agency, and this is where we do our manufacturing. Our sales office is downtown on West Pender. And then our instrumentation division is out in Burnaby, and then HR marketing, and a lot of our other office functions are out in Burnaby as well. So probably about 85% of these 1,500 employees are located in Vancouver, and then the rest are located just throughout the world at our international offices. And I'll show you a little bit more later on where those offices are located. So just to give you a feel for the types of products that we offer, a big focus for us is hematology. And so we have quite a wide range of hematology products. And this is an area that the company was really founded on. And this is the product that the company was really founded on. This is a product called Methicald. And this product was developed at the Terry Fox lab at the BC Cancer Agency. And stem cell was spun out of the Terry Fox lab to commercialize this product. And the way that this product works is it is a semi-solid media that's used to count the number of stem and progenitor cells in a bone marrow or cord blood sample or peripheral blood sample. So what you do is you kind of plate this media, and then you add the bone marrow cells or the cord blood cells. And then wherever there is a stem cell in that sample, you'll get a colony of a blood cell colony form. And so you can tell, how many stem cells are in that sample based on the number of colonies that form. You can tell how good and how functional they are based on, how well they proliferate and the different types of colonies. So this product has applications in research and development, but it also has applications for things like bone marrow transplants, where if they want a functional readout to make sure that there's enough stem and progenitor cells to reconstitute the immune system when someone's undergoing a bone marrow transplant, sometimes they will use this product. And we sell it as an IVD version in some countries as well. So another big area for us is pluripotent stem cell research. So, with a name like Stem Cell Technologies, of course, this is an area that we're in. We originally started, very focused on, the maintenance of embryonic stem cells and induced pluripotent stem cells. And we sell a product called mTeaser, which is the #1 media for culturing and maintaining these types of cells. But, over the last 10 years, we've really diversified our offering in this space. We now offer genome editing products. We have CRISPR-Cas9 gene editing products. and a lot of really good protocols for gene editing stem cells. We have the products to reprogram, blood cells or fibroblasts or whatever. You can reprogram them to induce pluripotent stem cells. A lot of differentiation products, so medias and protocols to take your pluripotent stem cells and differentiate them to cardiomyocytes or neural cells or things like that. And then we do put a lot of emphasis on quality control. Quality control of stem cells, making sure there's no genetic abnormalities in your cells and those types of quality issues is quite an important part. And I think an area that people don't fully appreciate the importance of. So we've put a lot of effort, really the last 2 years, on kind of educating people on these quality issues and providing a suite of products to really assess the quality of your stem cells. Another main area for the company is cell separation products. So we have a whole suite of cell separation products. And what these products do is they're a way to isolate specific cell types like T cells, B cells, or perhaps NK cells from whole blood, bone marrow, or other tissue samples. And the way that this works is that you have an antibody that is specific for an antigen on the cell that you want to isolate. So that binds to the cell, and that antibody is cross-linked to a magnetic particle. And then if you take that, once you label the cells with that magnetic particle and you put them in one of these magnets that we have down here, these are very strong earth metal magnets, rare earth metal magnets, and you basically can pull the cell that you want to the side of the vial. And then you can pour off the cells that you don't want because they're not magnetically labeled. And then when you take the vial out of the magnet, it releases the cells that you want to keep, and you're left with a very high purity population of cells. It's not uncommon to have populations that are greater than 95% pure using this technology. And we offer quite a wide range of magnets, depend on the throughput that the researcher is looking for, the level of automation that they want, and the volume that they're trying to isolate. So this is definitely one of our most successful lines and a very, very important part of the company. A new area that we've gotten into probably about 5 years ago were organoids. So organoids are basically when you culture organoids, historically when you culture cells, you would really culture them as a monolayer, just a layer of cells on a petri dish. With an organoid, what it is, it's a three-dimensional culture. And so you culture the cells and they form these organoids, which really mimic organs, and they have a lot of the same structural features that that an organ would have. So one of our products in this area is Intesticult, and Intesticult is used to culture intestinal organoids. So you take a piece of an intestine from a biopsy or something like that, and you can form these intestinal organoids, which I have some pictures right here, and they have a lot of the same features that the intestine has. And these are important because they're better representations of the actual biological systems than just an in vitro cell-based assay. And so they're used to do things like screen drugs, and just to study cellular mechanisms, stuff like that. I just put a paper here. Here's a great paper where what they did was they took samples of the intestine from people who had intestinal cancer. They cultured those into organoids, and then they used the organoids to screen a panel of cancer drugs to see which would be most effective at treating the patients. And they were able to identify really the most effective personalized approach to this person's cancer treatment, which was a very impressive. And then we have quite a large instrumentation and software division. So a lot of the products that we sell, our customers want to use them in a more high throughput application, or they want to standardize the readout of the assay that they're doing. And so this is where our instrumentation and software division comes into play. I'll just highlight two instruments here. We have the RoboSep S. This is a fully automated cell separator, so it allows you to isolate specific cell types using our EasySep technology. So you can just automate that whole process. And then we have StemVision. StemVision is an instrument that automates the CFU assay. So this is the assay that I showed you right at the beginning with the Methicol product. So this is an instrument that will analyze the cultures and count the hematopoietic columns for you. So moving past products onto stem cells distribution channels. So we are a global company. We have offices throughout the world. The areas highlighted in orange here are the areas where we have a direct sales channel and distribution channel. So we have, our head offices and the majority of our operations in Canada. We have a distribution facility in Seattle, Washington. We have a sales office and training lab in Cambridge, Massachusetts. We also have a new affiliate company in California called Conventa. We have distribution, sales, and marketing in the UK, Germany, and France. And then we have offices in China, Singapore, and Australia as well. And so, just as important as the direct sales channel is the direct distribution channel. A lot of the products that we sell contain biological materials like bovine serum albumin, for example. And so, being able to import these products into other countries and being able to be compliant with all the regulations and understanding what the regulations are is a very important thing and a big part of our distribution network, something we do really well. And you may have seen the news a couple of years ago that we got some funding to invest in an advanced biological manufacturing facility. So we're kind of right in the middle of this project. So we're building a big GMP manufacturing facility out in Burnaby. It's about $140 million investment. Got about $45 million in support from the federal and the provincial government to do this, and then we're providing the rest. And so we're estimating that this project will be complete in 2022. And what this project's going to do, it's going to give us the ability to manufacture our products under GMP. So right now, the majority of our products are manufactured under research use only. But a lot of our customers want to use these products in cell therapy applications. And I think right now, we probably at any given time, we're supporting about 40 or 50 clinical trials. So these are trials where other companies are using our products, either our media products or our cell separation products or something else to culture or prepare the cells they're using in a cell therapy. So it's very important for them as they move through their development process and kind of get to the later stages of the development programs that we have GMP products available for them for when they're ready to commercialize. And so this facility is going to give us that capability. And this is quite an important project. It's really going to set the stage for stem cell to become a leader in the cell therapy and ancillary materials manufacturing. And I couldn't give a talk like this without talking about COVID-19, since I think we're all very focused on that right now. So we do, we are spending a lot of time and a lot of resources supporting COVID-19 research. Here are just a list of kind of news articles and press releases that highlight the role that stem cells playing. And I'll give you just a few more specific examples to show you how our products are used to find a solution to this problem. But I can't say right at the beginning that our products are being used in well over 100 labs that are working on COVID-19 research. So again, providing those tools for researchers so that they can do the important work that they need to do is extremely important, and it's something that we take very seriously. So here's an example of how we've been supporting this fight against COVID-19. When this outbreak first happened, the Center for Disease Control in China was able to isolate the virus. And the way that they did this was they cultured it and propagated it in one of our media products called Pneumocult. So Pneumocult is a media product that allows you to grow three-dimensional artificial airway cells. And so the virus was able to survive in these cells. And so they were able to isolate. And then once they isolated the virus, they were able to do the gene sequencing. And they provided the gene sequence globally. They just made it publicly available. And it was that gene sequence that really set the foundation for all the diagnostic tests, the vaccine development, and a lot of the therapeutic development that followed suit from that. Here's another example of some work that was done here in Vancouver at the University of British Columbia by Dr. Joseph Penninger. And what they did was they were able to use our intesticult product. So what they did is they cultured organoids using our intesticult project, and then they were able to use that as an assay to screen for drugs that blocked the mechanism that the virus uses to get into cells. And so just another example of how our products are supporting this research. And then the last one I'll show you is for some vaccine development. This was done at the Vanderbilt Vaccine Center in Nashville, Tennessee by Dr. James Crow. And they, in order to develop their vaccine and to do their therapeutic work, they need to isolate a very specific type of cell from a person who had survived COVID-19. And so we worked very closely with this institution to develop a custom cell separation kit that they could use to isolate the cell, and they were successful at doing it. So I'll just stop there. So just a reminder, Stem Cell is not a drug development company. It's a reagent and supply company. And there's 4 areas that we focus on. It's on cell sourcing, cell purification, cell culture, cell analysis. And, you know, we've kind of paused on our hiring right now as we kind of work through all these COVID-19 issues, but we do expect to come out of this strong and get back to growth mode, hopefully fairly quickly. So in the next 10 years, you know, we do expect that our revenue will exceed $1 billion annually, and we're going to be investing about $1 billion in R&D over that 10-year period as well. So that means we do need to hire about 5,000 new employees over the next 10 years. So you know, if you're interested in working at Stem Cell, or if you want to learn more, I would really encourage you to contact Christine. She is our scientific recruiter. I'm sure she'd be happy to provide you with some more information about opportunities at Stem Cell. And that's it.
Thanks, David. As a reminder to everybody in the on this webinar, please go ahead and use the Q&A if you have questions that you'd like me to ask David. I've got a few. Thank you very much for your presentation. I always really enjoy it. You take a very complex scientific topic and really make it very translatable, which is a gift. And I guess the question I have, I mean, you started, I grew up in Prince George, and all of a sudden are, you know, in a senior executive position at one of the largest biotechs in Canada. So can you give us and the people in the room a little bit of advice and thoughts on how you've been able to end up where you are today?
Yeah, you know, it's been, I think first I've been very fortunate. You know, I think a lot of it is, finding that right opportunity and finding people who kind of believe in you and are going to kind of help you, through that and coach you in development. If I was to kind of bring it down to probably one of the most important things in terms of my career development, I think it's been the networking part of it. When I first moved to Vancouver, I think it was about 2004, 2005 when I was doing my MBA. And as soon as I graduated from my MBA, I actually joined Life Science BC. It was really through my, the network that I built at Life Science BC where most of my career opportunities have come. I've worked at 4 companies, in my career so far. I've been at Stem Cell twice, so I count Stem Cell twice because I worked at Stem Cell and then I left for a few years and then I went back and I worked at a company called Aquinox Pharmaceuticals and I worked at a company called Methyl. And I only actually ever applied for one of those jobs. It was the first job at Stem Cell. All the other opportunities that I've had and all the jobs that I have came through the network that I built largely through Life Science BC, including, going back to Stem Cell the second time. So, I think the one piece of advice I would give to people who are just kind of starting out is to really, don't underestimate the importance of that your professional network, right? And invest the time early on in building that network so that when you are ready to start your career, you can kind of use that network to help you find that perfect opportunity for yourself. Because there is a lot of opportunity out there and knowing the right people can really help.
That's great advice, and probably never too early to start engaging in that manner. I think one of the interesting aspects of your career too is how you appear to have seamlessly moved from being a very deep science person, and obviously still are, to being such an accomplished business leader. And I think it's one of the things that we talk about in the life sciences sector is how do you connect the business leadership and the scientific leadership together to both speak the same language, but also to be able to drive things forward. So do you have any advice for people as they try and crack the nut of either coming from the business side into leading a biotech, or from the science side into leading the business side of a biotech?
Yeah, making that transition, I think, is different for everybody. A lot of people, I often get the question, should I do an MBA? People who are working in the lab and want to kind of move over to the business, should I do an MBA? And the advice I give them, it really depends on the situation. I think a lot of people are able to make that transition and get the education and training that they need on the job without having to do an MBA. And if that's an opportunity, then I think that's great. And there's not necessarily that need. I personally did do an MBA, and the reason I did my MBA is because I was trying to make that. When I was working in Montreal as a chemist, I spent a lot of my time supporting the business development function at the company I was at, from the lab side of it. So, making reagents and scientific summaries and stuff like that. And I was trying to make that transition, but I was never able to make that transition. And so the MBA for me was a way to aid in that transition, but it's not necessary for everybody. So I think whether or not, it's needed really depends on that. I think the area that I see people who are making this transition struggle the most with is, when you're that shift from being a scientist to being more of a business person. It is a different skill set that's required. When you're a scientist, it's very analytical. Things are very structured. On the business side, the softer skills become more important, right? The relationships, the negotiation, those types of things. So, investing in that and spending some time to learn those skills and develop those skills is an important part. And then also the second area I think that really people should be paying attention with is just how comfortable are you with ambiguity, right? And dealing with ambiguity. People who are scientists are often, they want the data, right? They need the data to make decisions and to drive them in the right direction. But on the business side, that data is not always available, and you still have to make those decisions, and you still have to move forward. So being comfortable in, data is great, and we always want to make data decisions when possible, but it's not always possible. And so just being comfortable with a certain level of ambiguity is something you need to be comfortable with. If you're not, maybe it's not the right decision, right, to move more towards the business side, because it will be ambiguous a lot of the time. Especially.
Yeah, I think the last 10 weeks has given everybody a little bit of a test in their comfort level in ambiguity, regardless of how much you like it. I think it's interesting, for so many years we've talked about Stem Cell, the anchor company for Vancouver, and we have a couple of others that are on fire right now. And I guess as you think about the Vancouver market, and you've worked in some other organizations as well, what has been the key to Stem Cell's success to get from that SME to now, an anchor company growing 20% a year? There's not a lot of companies that are saying over the next 10 years, I'm going to hire 5,000 people and invest $1 billion in R&D that are sitting as their headquarters in Vancouver on Station Street.
Yeah. So, I think every company is different, but, for Stem Cell, I really believe that the key to Stem Cell success is focus on the science. So we are a private company. There's one owner, and we don't have any investors or anything like that. And, our CEO, his name is Alan. He is, at his core, he's a scientist. And, it's really the science that's important to him. Our mandate from Alan is not to make as much money as possible. Our mandate from Alan is to move the field forward and to move the science forward. And so all the decisions that we make and all the investments that we make are driven by that focus on the science. And I think it's that focus on the science, and it really provides you with this long-term perspective in terms of what you're doing. And so the decisions that we make are the decisions that are long-term and good for our customers. And I think that's what drives the financial success. When I say that, I don't mean to say that the finances aren't important, right? You have to be profitable, and you need those profits to reinvest and build the company. But it's not our primary objective. And I think that's really probably the main distinguishing feature for Stem Cell, and the main reason Stem Cell has been so successful. Right? Everything gets reinvested back into the company, driving this everything.
And, you know, many companies will struggle in keeping that culture in place as they grow, both at the speed and size that stem cell has grown. So how has stem cell been able to maintain that focus? I mean, you know, Alan can only talk to so many people.
Yeah, you know, it's just, you know, I don't know if, you know, I think it comes from the leadership of the company. Like, it's just, you know, it's so ingrained in who we are as a company, that focus on the science. And, you know, our tagline is scientists helping scientists. And that tagline is, you know, it's very, very true. And so, you know, when we're hiring people, when we're promoting people, and making those types of decisions, you know, that is a very, very important factor that we take into account. You know, people who have come into the company who are not focused on the science and say, for example, are focused on something else, you know, they tend not to be comfortable there, right? Because their priorities are misaligned with what we're trying to do. So there's like the self-selection as well. So, you know, I think it is just, you know, it is very, very ingrained. You know, it's constantly reinforced by our leadership team. That's driven down throughout the entire organization.
Which is fantastic to be able to stay true to all of that. Switching gears a little bit to COVID-19, Stem Cell has been a supplier for, you know, as you talked about, multiple different initiatives. Where do you see what's happening? Like, where do you see the most promising science as it relates to whether it's vaccines or therapeutics or the development of products to address this challenge?
Yeah, you know, I'm not as familiar on the vaccine side of it. You know, that's not an area that we spend a lot of time in. But I think on the therapeutic side of it, you know, right here in Vancouver, I think is probably the most promising treatment. Right, you have Abcelera, and they were able through their rapid response program to identify, you know, it looks like a very good antibody to the virus that causes COVID-19. And I just saw a press release. It was either yesterday or today.
Yeah.
That came out where they know they're already getting into phase 1 clinical trials. So
yeah,
you know, that's just amazing, and it's awesome, right? It's great for our community, and I think it's also, you know, it's the forerunner in terms of the treatments, and you know, their technology is good, so the antibody is going to be good too. So, you know, I think I have a lot of confidence in that. I'm looking forward to kind of progress through the trials. Yeah.
It has been extraordinary with Abcelera and their success, and that announcement yesterday was certainly very exciting. You and I talked at one point about, you know, the path to market. So let's assume Abcelera's product, for example, is successful, or whomever's. Can you talk a little bit about that process of eventually getting that therapeutic to market and what that will entail?
So I'll put the caveat that we are not a drug development.
I know. Yeah.
So I'm not an expert in drug development. It's more range and size, but you know, typically there's a three stages to the development of an antibody or small molecule drug or whatever, cell therapy. And you know, so there's the first phase, which is phase 1, and this is basically a small group of people who are usually healthy individuals who are tested for just to make sure that it's safe. And that there's no kind of side effects. You know, once they pass through that, it would enter into phase 2, which is kind of like a preliminary efficacy study to make sure that, you know, it kind of, you know, has a benefit, although it's not a very large study. And then if that's successful, then it would go into a larger phase 3 clinical trial, which would be quite a large trial where they look for, you know, efficacy and safety and look for statistical significance in that. In a situation like COVID-19, I think some of that stuff could probably be accelerated, but I don't know the specifics for how their product is going. Sometimes they'll combine the phase 1 and the phase 2.
Right.
And there's a need, and I think it's probably justified in this case.
Yeah, it's that balance, and Health Canada has certainly been trying to find that balance. You know, very early days in the medtech side with an expedited regulatory approval process that then catches up later, and it's that balance, right? And there'll be a global demand for whatever the products are that actually show that they can work.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see how that works too, because there's going to be this scale-up issue. I would anticipate, right, that once they do have an effective treatment or effective vaccine, they're going to want to get that ramped up. Demand for it's going to be quite large, from all these different countries, and so getting the supply out there, it'll take a while to ramp that up too. I would expect.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Question in the chat, a specific one: does stem cell technology sell respiratory tract cells that are to be used with pneumocult?
No, we only sell the media product. We don't sell cells.
Okay. So also turning to COVID-19, I mean, you went through stem cells operations. You obviously have a lot of labs, R&D. So can you talk a little bit about how you managed, because I know stem cell was essentially not shut down, but closed offices pretty early in this, in COVID-19 in early March. So can you talk a little bit how you've been able to maintain operations? Because you've clearly been, on the other side, extremely busy in supplying your products. So you found the balance somehow.
Yeah, and it's not just in Canada. It's really worldwide. We were able to maintain not all of our operations, but the majority of them. I think life science research companies, pharmaceutical companies, healthcare companies. These are all considered essential services in most countries because the reagents that we supply, the tools that we provide, they're very important for the fight against COVID-19 and also just people's health in general. So we were allowed to continue operating, but there was a lot of constraints on the level that we could operate at, right? So there was a lot of safety protocols that needed to be put in place very quickly. Physical distancing, protective equipment, stuff like that, and it wasn't always easy to get access to the equipment that you needed to. So when this all hit, basically everybody who was in an office-based role, just started working from home. And we, as you know, we did that quite early on.
Mm-hmm.
And that's worked out quite well. I think people have been very effective, and the productivity has been great. So there hasn't been any real major issues with that. The issue that we had was more on the operations side. So
Mm-hmm.
manufacturing, distribution, and the research labs where people had to be in the building. We really cut down our R&D. A lot of the R&D people they started working from home too, and just focused more on writing up data, spending some time educating themselves, doing a bit of learning and processing some information. And so we had quite limited operations in the lab and quite limited operations on the distribution and manufacturing side too, where we cut down the number of people that were going in so that we could keep the appropriate distances. And we introduced shift work as well, so that we could maintain the volume and stuff. So there was absolutely a lot of changes very early on, but overall it's been okay. We've been able to, we haven't had any back orders or any supply issues at all.
And so as you look ahead, I mean, 10 weeks ago or whenever this all started seems like a lifetime ago, but we now, for the foreseeable future, are going to have a different type of working environment. Of those measures that you put in place, how do you see adjusting them, potentially for up to a year, if not longer?
Yeah, this is a good question. I think we still have some decisions to make about the working from home, but right now there's no plans to bring people back into, like, people who can stay separated and working from home. We're going to keep working from home for the foreseeable future. There's no real reason to kind of stop that right now. With respect to the lab function, we're just in the process of ramping back up our lab functions. And so there's been a lot of, like, the government's kind of put down a list of requirements that you can meet in terms of safety and protocols and stuff like that. So we've just been, we've finished that, we've put all that in place, and we're just kind of going through the training stage right now. So we should be done the training stage in the next week or so. Then once that's done, then people will come back. But it's going to look different. There's going to be, safety equipment. There's going to be proper physical distancing. There's going to be fewer people in each lab, that sort of stuff. And to make up for it, people are going to work. There's going to be multiple shifts in a day rather than just your standard 9 to 5, right? There'll be an early shift and a late shift. And that type of approach applies to all those types of functions like distribution and stuff like that. But I think people are very supportive of it, and I think everybody understands the need to do it. And people, the number one priority is always people's safety, right? And so everybody's being really good. I think people are happy. I think they just want to get back. A lot of people just want to get back and contribute, right? So they're happy to do it. So it's been okay.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think there's a big percentage of people, especially I would assume in the work in labs and R&D, that they want to get back. They want to get back in.
Yeah, they do. Right here.
Write reports and update skills, but they want to get back in. And so organizations like yourselves are really taking a leadership role in defining what that may look like. There's another question, which is, what can grad students and or postdocs do well in an academic environment to become more attractive candidates for a transition to working as an industry scientist at a company like Stem Cell?
For that question, I would go back to the very first question you asked me too. And
right.
It's, it's a lot of it, you can really kind of kickstart your career by, investing that time in building your professional network early on, when you're a student. Most people are happy to talk to students. They enjoy talking to students. They enjoy helping people get out. I do it all the time myself. So, I would really encourage you to do that and build that network, because, a lot of your opportunities are going to come through your network over your career. So, again, it can't be, the importance of it just can't be understated, right? So, I would say join, an organization like Life Science BC and go to the events and spend the time to meet people and get to know them, right? The industry leaders.
And not to do a self-serving plug for LSBC, but we're very aware of that role that we play as in being an organization that brings the community together. And it's a diverse community between researchers, academia, and industry. And so as we try and pivot and have events like this, it is largely around trying to figure out ways to continue to keep that connection together. And I know David well enough that if you want to reach out to David, you can either send him a note on the chat right here or probably reach out to him after. But we are trying to figure out in this virtual world how to keep that important role of providing networking opportunities for both people early on in their career, but also, at different stages of their career. So it's all a new world order, and we're trying all these different things and see what works. So in addition, we'd really love feedback from people on both this event and any other events that we've had, or any ideas you have for events. We're playing around with our annual salmon barbecue being a virtual salmon barbecue, so we'll see how that comes together. So David, as you look ahead and consider the workforce, how to work, what do you think some of those essential skills as organizations are pivoting and workers are pivoting? I mean, all of us have had a dramatic change in how we work every day, and it's been interesting, some skills that we really need more of that we never actually worried about in the past, or is there a different way to network and show your attractiveness to a company?
Yeah, the big shift that we're seeing throughout this whole thing, like the shift was always happening. There was this gradual shift from people, purchasing products through, their direct sales force, interacting one-on-one with sales force, to moving towards more kind of self-serve e-commerce type channels. That's definitely been accelerated, through this whole thing, because, the sales team cannot go into the lab anymore. So there is this big shift to, online e-commerce. And so, there's with that comes a shift in the types of skills that we need, right? People need to be much more kind of familiar with those types of e-commerce channels, IT programming, those types of skill sets become very important. And being able to couple those with an understanding of the science and the products that we offer is, important too, because, those people need to be able to understand what they're doing. So that type of, having that science background with that type of technology background as well coupled into that, I could see that being more and more important as we go forward.
Yeah, it's been interesting as our economy has essentially, shut down in many levels. There's statistics about the investment that has been made in digital tools, and digital technology has far surpassed what the projection was this year. And I think we're almost up to like a 3-year investment in the space of 3 months, as so many companies have tried to pivot.
Yeah, and it's not just the e-commerce part. It's just, even things like this, right? Being able to do this type of, set something like this up. Like Ryan's got some good computer skills, we found out, right? Which are very important at the beginning. So those types of skills, are important.
Well, I think an opportunity of these types of things are also that we can bring in speakers that are not based in Vancouver, and we can have participants that are also not based in Vancouver, which was harder for us to do before. And I know from the participants that are on this call right now, many of them are not based in Vancouver. So, which is fantastic. So I'm conscious of the time. I'll give people a couple of minutes to ask any further questions that you may have for Stem Cell and for David. I'll ask David, so you joined the LSBC board a couple of years ago, I think. Maybe you can share with people your experience of that, because it's a little bit different than your day job.
Yeah, the board's been very good. And I think, joining the board, so this is the first board I've been part of. And this is, again, just another way that Life Science BC is just helping me with the development of my own career, right? It's being part of that board and learning how to function on a board has been an important part of my development, kind of getting ready for that next stage of my career. So I really appreciate that opportunity. And it's great to kind of see the back end in terms of how this all operates and how it's all done. I never fully appreciated the amount of work that goes into coordinating these events and having them run smoothly. So, I think I have a much better appreciation for that.
Well, I certainly have a much bigger appreciation of stem cell technology. Okay, it doesn't look like anybody has any further questions. So I want to thank you very much. Thank you to all of the attendees. Please reach out to provide us with any feedback that you have, any ideas that you have, how we can connect the community or speakers that you would like to see. With that, David, I'll give you back 5 minutes, and everybody else, before you probably get on your next Zoom meeting, as we all do. And thank you very much, everybody, and have a great day.
Thank you.